Hey guys, it's Cass, and welcome to an old photo booth style on my laptop little chat about the 106 books I read this year. I'm going to try to make this quick, concise. I always tend to be over chatty. I'm sure the quality of this is not the best, but I'm just trying to get this through on my break, and so I wanted to go over my reading challenge, which took some crazy ups and downs between all the things that I wanted to do this year versus things that I actually did do this year. I made a whole challenge at the beginning. I'll probably link it below so you could see my original videos, which they're like in book love playlists of the year. And that's where this one will go. But I entirely changed my challenge at the very beginning of the year, and I did end up following through with reading 100 books. I will never make this as a challenge again. I would like to take my time with more of these stories, not feel like I'm rushing through. I've only really felt relief since hitting the 100 books, and then the 6 books I've read post that has been chill. And so we're going to go over my 100 books for the year, and yeah, without wasting any time, let's jump into it. All right, so book number 1 was Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan, and it was not bad. It was basically growing up on the moon is the thing I like do in my daydreams, but this felt very YA, Chinese mythology with a forbidden love kind of situation. Rated at 3 stars. Number 2 was The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nhi Vo, I believe is how you would say her name. My note was, this really wishes it was The Great Gatsby so much that it is an expansion and royally complicates everything, is my full opinion about it. Because I don't even care for The Great Gatsby. Gasp. I know, a lot of people love the classic. I am not one of them. I said this was a snooze, 2 stars. My number 3 read of the year was Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. I wrote an overly fluffed love story, an overly fluffed story about family love and growing up, narrated by Meryl Streep, and holy shit did she sell it. Her narration alone easily made this a 5-star for me this year. So 100% recommend audiobook, probably way more than physically reading it. I did buy a physical copy to try and reread it to see if it still like gave me the same feeling or if it was entirely Meryl that sold the whole thing. I didn't rate, I did, 5-star, duh. Number 4, I'm going to run out of fingers here pretty quickly, was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, which I know this is also a phenomenal classic. I wrote, this was just sad. I don't mean to laugh because this was fucking sad. I found myself both loving and hating it at the same time. I'm obviously reading notes here. The note at the end of the book about the author herself and how she chose to end her own life and like her manner of how she did it, and how she left her children and how she was found, and it just really made the whole like reviewing, I guess, or like sitting on the book post reading it so much more depressing. I gave it 3 stars. Number 5 for the year was A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. Oh my gosh, this was part of my original challenge, which is where I took 2, I believe my original challenge was 2 books from each category of the Goodreads Choice Awards. And I was like, I'm going to read one from each, compare them to each other, something like that. I don't remember exactly. Like I said, they'll be linked below. Anyway, this is one of the original ones that I was trying to read. I'm so happy I did not buy this. I gave this a 1-star rating. I said this was the most rude protagonist I have ever encountered. I disliked every second of this book and debated DNFing it a handful of times. Now my vibes. Number 6, You Could Make This Place Beautiful. Oh my gosh. You Could Make This Place Beautiful by Maggie Smith. Memoir about her divorce. I said she's a poet, so it sounded more lovely than it could ever be in real life, which is true. Like, going through divorce is not fucking fun. I would know, I've been there. I don't typically rate memoirs. This was That's my rating. Number 7 was Ink Blood Sister Scribe by Emma Torres, I believe is how you would say her name. I did buy this as a physical copy originally. I thought I would be so much more into it than I was. Like, I really wanted to love this so bad, but it felt like it went on way too long for me. Like, I loved the premise of sisters protecting a family library of magical books. I was like, but it fell pretty flat for me. I gave it a 3-star. Number 8 was The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. I said, a father and professor that was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I feel like I read somewhere he wrote this for his son, but I could just entirely be making that up because I don't remember. No writing memoirs. It was a last lecture by a professor, it's a thing. Number 9 was Gallant by V.E. Schwab. Second time reading from this author, and I disliked this quite a bit. I said I kept forgetting the story while in the middle of it. Just blah, 3 stars. That feels generous. I was really disappointed by this. I did buy a physical copy, or had a physical copy. I did buy it used off thrift books. I'm stamping it, moving it on to the next person. Number 10 for the year, so 10% of the way through my challenge, was The Stories We Tell by Joanna Gaines. It's a memoir about her life and starting her show and her whole little silos setup in, I can't think of the place, in Texas, the exact town in Texas. I wrote that if you liked her, you'd probably enjoy this. I don't have any opinions either way about her. I don't watch her show. I know who she is. So I mean, like, another meh and no rating is what I wrote. Number 11, In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Klune. I said, this is a 3 strikes and he's out as an author I will never read from again. Hated this, 1 shitty star. No thanks to him ever again, I'm good. I doubled down on the Ann Patchett train with my number 12, which was Commonwealth. I got this at a thrift store probably 2 years ago. I tried to pick it up, didn't like it, put it down. But because I love Tom Lake so much, I was like, maybe this is the right time. So I picked it back up. Like I said, second read this year by Anne. I can't remember an ounce of this story, and I DNF'd it 65% of the way in, 2 stars. Number 13 was Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. I said, very much written during a pandemic book about time travel. I just didn't like it, 2 stars. So a lot of these, I'm pretty sure it's apparent. I am sometimes explaining what the book is about. Mostly, I'm just giving my opinion about it because I don't remember a whole lot, which is why I would not repeat this challenge. It's just difficult for me when my top reading before this was like 55-ish books. I think it's 55 or 56. So basically doubling that almost is intense. I can't remember half the things. There's a lot of reading that was not good to me this year. You'll see a lot of 2 and 3 stars as I'm continuing on. But number 14 for the year was What Happened to You? Conversations on Trauma, Resilience, and Healing by Bruce D. Perry and Oprah Winfrey. I said, you know me about trauma books, and maybe you do if you're not new here. I said, not much new in here. It just felt like Oprah wanted to throw her name on something to be woke. 3 stars. It wasn't a bad book. It just, nothing new. 15 was Finding Me by Viola Davis. Audiobook for this, 100%, all the way. The way that she reads, I didn't know much about her as an actress. I know like some things she was in. I kind of prefer going into memoirs not knowing these people because that's not the reason I'm reading them. Incredible memoir. I felt all the emotions during it. Highly, highly recommend. Number 16 was Eleanor Oliphant. Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. Everyone IRL I share my feelings about with having read this book. They've kind of given me drama about it lightheartedly, but I didn't like this book at all. I said unpopular opinion, but this is one of the worst books I've ever read. So mundane, pretentious characters, absolutely not realistic in how these people talk to each other. It wasn't believable, and I'm never going to jive with someone that basically laughs at victims. One shitty, shitty star. Hated that book. Number 17 was Fantastic Mr. Fox by Roald Dahl. I said this book makes me definitely want to see the movie. It was cute. Not 5 stars, 4 stars. 4 stars. Number 18 was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I said, apart from the fact that this is one of my favorite covers of the year, but it's a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, and I will eat that shit up all day. Thank you. 4 stars. I will be reading the second book in 2025. I do have it physically for both. Number 19 was The Hidden Lives of Trees by Peter Wohlleben. Oh, we're just going to stop there. I said I really, really love trees because I really, really do. And so learning about them in this like capacity, the way that they speak to each other, I've learned so much even about like dealing with my own trees through this book, which is very interesting. I said it just made the nature-loving part of me so fulfilled and giddy. 4 stars. Number 20 percent of the way through my challenge, The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. I said this was a lengthy, girthy bitch. It's about sisters in Salem. I just didn't care about the sisters, minus their sick-ass, plant-based names. This is my 3rd read by Alex, and the most disappointing one thus far, 3 stars. 21 was Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. 100% on board with plants and animals being our biggest teacher, but it felt so disorganized and repetitive. 3 stars. My number 22 was What My Bones Know, a memoir of healing from complex trauma by Stephanie Fu. Hello, trauma book again. This felt like a more story-like read with similar concepts to The Body Keeps the Score. I said I wasn't mad at it because I too believe healing and working towards that type of healing is essential towards survival, especially from trauma. No rating because it's memoir. 23 was Wildflower by Drew Barrymore. I feel like if you like Drew, you would like this. I'm pretty meh about her, and so I feel pretty meh about this. And that's all we'll say. It's memoir, no rating. 24. Here in the Real World by Sarah Pennypacker. I said this was cute and one of the only middle grades I'm sure I can seek out and enjoy on my own without reading to my kids. I'm not really a middle grade, even YA reader, really, so this was an pure buy based on the cover while I was at Barnes & Noble, I think, one time. 4 stars. 25 was my first ever Stephen King. This is about a woman, her dog, and her grief. There's a little tiny touch of some grossness, horror aspect at the end. 3 stars. 26 was my next book by Stephen King, and the only other one I've read was Elevation by Stephen King. I said this isn't horror at all, but it's an interesting story about a man that is losing weight without becoming thinner and the life around him. And spoiler, it's super simple read. He's worried about floating away, and basically does. I said very interesting, 4 stars. Number 27 was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I only read this because it was book 1, and I really wanted to read Hellbent because everyone was all about it. They were raving about it. I said this turned me off so hard that I didn't even want to give Hellbent a shot. 2 stars. So I never read Hellbent. Number 28 for this year was The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. I said this was absolutely fucking sad. So goddamn sad. It messed with my head for a little. Memoir-ish, which it is memoir because she's talking about her life and just a lot of complex shit in there. So sad. It kind of, put me in a bad headspace for a little bit. So no rating. Number 29 was The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. This was gifted to me by my book club girly, and this was hella boring. Sorry, Katie. Was what I wrote. I'm mostly reading my notes for these, I think I said. It was about pack horse librarians, which I thought would be cool, but I'll never read this again. 2 stars. So stamping it again. Moving on. Number 30, so 30% of the way through my challenge, was Enchantment, Awakening Wonder in an Anxious Age by Catherine May. I dabbled a little bit with some Catherine May. I think I have another one on here, and I did buy a little mini physical one recently. I said this was very all over the place, and like she had a deadline to meet. Hecka disappointing. I didn't rate this one. Number 31 was The Midnight Library. This was my first really reread in a while. Not my first ever, but my first one in a while, and my only reread of this year, by Matt Haig. I said this introduced me to Portal Fantasy, and I overlooked a lot of the problematic stuff the first time. That definitely didn't settle with me the best during this reread. Dropped it from my original 4-star to a 3-star. Number 32 was The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I said this was a local book club pick. It wasn't the worst concept, but I feel like it has been done so many times. Better characters are insta-eye roll for me on 3 stars, and I've decided not to continue the series. Number 33 is I'd Rather Be Reading by Anne Bogle. I said the book matches the title, and while I personally agree that I'd rather be reading than doing heaps of other things, this was just boring. 2 stars. Number 34 was The Secret Lives of Churchwomen by Disha Filia. I think I went into this expecting something different than what it ended up being. I said no rating as it was a memoir. I don't know though. It was just weird, and I guess it wasn't what I thought it would be, and it didn't play out how I thought it would, and it didn't feel like it had anything to do with my concept of church ladies, but that's neither here nor there, and I get the relevance of, like, especially reading later and, like, looking at other people's reviews is like, I get where I missed a lot of things. Excuse me. Number 35 is The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart. I always see this series together, like in the little set collections at Barnes & Noble, and I always want to buy them because I really like the covers. But I wrote, let's just say, I am glad that I never have bought them, and now I never will. 3 stars. Number 36 is The Deep by River Solomon. This I did audiobook-wise, and this one was one of the ones that was just, like, available now. I said this was such an odd book to me. My brain was feeling mermaids, but then I had no clue what was going on, and I don't recall mermaids being a thing in here. 3 stars. I may be wrong, but I don't remember. Number 37 was Present Over Perfect by Shauna Nyquist. Felt like an exhausted mom who came to terms with giving herself some grace. Memoir, I neither liked it or disliked it. Number 38 was The Book Women of Troublesome Creek by Michelle Richardson. I wrote Vary the Giver of Stars too similarly, and while I appreciate the same message of bringing books to others by being a traveling library, I just didn't care. Sorry. 3 stars. Number 39 was A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline Leon. We're not even going to try that. I'm going to butcher that name so bad. I said at this time, again, I was borrowing whatever was available now that I could get on Libby. This popped up as one. I said I always heard about this, and after reading it, I still just don't care about it. 3 stars. These ones that I was like getting that were available now or whatever on Libby, it's because I was panicking I was way ahead of schedule the whole year for my 100 books, but I was panicking that because I was feeling like I was rushing through things that I was going to hit a slump and not want to keep reading, especially since I hadn't really liked a whole lot of anything I had read thus far. And so I was worried about struggling. I wanted to be ahead. Number 40, so 40% of the way through my challenge, was Strong Female Character by Fern Brady. Please listen to the audiobook of this one. This is another one I highly recommend. Her accent makes it so worth it. Plus, I feel like she does so great at just explaining her story. I mean, it was a balls to the wall, no shame whatsoever about all the chaotic things in her life, and I thought it was great. Again, no rating because it's memoir. Number 41, Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. To streamline this, books 41, 74, 80, 84, 85, and 87 are the first 6 books out of the 10 now in the book series for, I believe it's the Wayward Children series. So I'm going to show those numbers on here now, and I won't reference those numbers again moving forward. I said, look, this was a cute idea, obviously more towards YA, even some like middle grade for some parts. Some parts I feel like definitely are more YA, just with words used and explanations of more sexual type things that kind of peeked in and out of certain sections of books. I said I didn't really like any, and I had to ask myself why I was reading them, and they definitely weren't worth continuing, so I won't be. I said it's all about children going through portals, which originally I was very hyped for the idea, but the books just weren't for me, unfortunately. I do own the first 9 of them. Like I said, I only got through 6. I'm planning to stamp the ones I at least read, and then I'm hoping to put them all together as a collection. I know the 10th one is coming out, I believe, in early 2025 or somewhere in 2025. But if I could put the first 9 together and a little free library, hopefully someone could pick up the whole collection and just be thrilled about that. That's my hope. Number 42 was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I said this was whiny as hell. Just didn't care about these 4 teenagers. It isn't worth a pretentious snooze fest. 2 stars. Number 43, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I am in the vast minority here on this one because this was a no for me. I wrote, it was hyped up for so long and I'm always weary of tackling a classic in case I don't love it. And I didn't like this at all. 2 stars. I could, I guess, elaborate more, but I just don't care to, sorry. Number 44 was Begin Again by Oliver Jeffers. A very simplistic existentialism with a twist of art is kind of the vibes I feel from it. I would recommend the physical copy of this, though, because of the illustrations. Art's not super my style, but it's weird. It felt like a grown-up version of a kid's book. With that being said, it was only 3-star for me. Number 45 was The Conquest of Happiness by Bertrand Russell. This was written in the 1930s, so it way predates all the self-help work that we're like used to now by quite a bit of decades there. So for that, I appreciate it, and I maybe judged it too harshly, like in hindsight, compared to today's knowledge and awareness and all the books I've read in my life so far about these kind of self-help things, self-discovery, all the self-care. 3 stars, though. Number 46 was Notes on an Execution by Dana Kukafka. I am pretty goddamn anti true crime. I think it's gross. So I was pretty nervous about this, which is interesting because, like, for such a long part of my life, I was obsessed with true crime like a lot of other people, and then I just had a different take on it by having kind of been in a situation which it wasn't really true crime at all, but having had a loved one pass and then seeing how media and people commenting on that and how that affected me, instant turn off from me entertaining any of that. And I think I feel so much that way given my own experience, but also just some other documentary and or like glorifying a lot of things and hearing feedback from victims' family members just is enough to put me off forever. So I was nervous about this. I said, but I appreciated it focused more on the life that led to Ansel's choices. Ansel's our main character in this. I'm really awful with names, but I do remember his name. I said the awareness that we are all humans and nobody is the devil was a humbling reality, and I think kind of highlights more of like why I like the psychology aspect of certain crime-related things, but I just can't go there anymore. 4 stars for this book, though, is pretty good. Number 47 was A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. Modern women in old times who like sex, and I just don't care. But also this is a like sex or likes talking about herself as how forward thinking, which again, for the older times, I guess that's like a point of pride, and now I just don't care. But this is also a murder adventure type novel. I hated all the characters, didn't care about what happened, 2 stars. Number 48, Heart of the Sun Warrior by Sue Lynn Tan. This was book 2 from the very first book that I read of the year. This was originally a duology, but I actually have the 3rd book coming in the mail right now, and I've heard talks of like a 2.5 or a 3.5 or a 4. I'm not sure exactly. I just know that I have the 3rd book on the way. And I love the expansion of the story. I said it's funny because I don't care about dragons and will actively avoid books that have them in there. But I think this focused more on the people, and I appreciate thinking about them living in the sky controlling things. So I like that aspect of it. This one was a 4-star. Number 49 was Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. I will never, ever buy into a book where siblings are terrible to each other and never say sorry, is what I wrote about this. I don't have a relationship with my brother, and so this was just a shitty story to me. 2 stars. Number 50 was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. I said yet another one I wanted to like because everyone was raving. These never seemed to turn out well. 2 stars. Number 51 was Everything's Trash, But It's Okay by Phoebe Robinson. This book was absolute trash, and it's not okay, and I feel like I wasted my time. It's kind of memoir, so I shouldn't rate it, but it was awful, so sorry. Fuck it. 1 star. Shh. Number 52 was Escape from Mr. Limoncello's Library by Chris Grabenstein. This was available as a read-through Libby, like available now type situation like I talked about, so I went for it. This was just not up my alley at all. I won't read any other books in the series. 2 star. And then I wrote a note. I was like, yes, it was a rather abysmal reading year with most 2 and 3 star reads at this point. I was running out of steam just a touch over halfway through. Everything started to become a blur, and I started to not give a shit about what I was picking, and I was just grabbing things, just trying to get through my numbers, which not my favorite part of this. So I said, bear with me. Number 53 was Rest is Resistance by Trisha Hersey. Basically, Rest pushes against capitalism and white supremacy, which is all good and well. I was like, but this was repetitive and all over the place and lacked fully developed conclusions to anything suggested or said. 3 stars. Number 54 was A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. Number 57, so I won't mention this again, is the second one in the series that I can't remember the title of. I don't care about the robot. I don't care about the monk or their stories. 3 star for the first one, 2 star for the second. Number 55 was Wintering by Catherine A. Its tagline is the power of rest and retreat in difficult times, and while it wasn't my favorite, reflecting on it now, at the time it was perfect read, so it earned a 5 star then, and I guess I'll keep it that way for now. Like, once I think about it again, and if I reread it again, probably wouldn't have that same opinion, but going into early winter, it was good. Number 56 was Wayward by Amelia Hart. One of my favorite books of this year, 5 star, loved the cover, had the physical copy, it's displayed on my bookshelf. I liked the world building, and heaps of it resonated with me with leaving an abusive marriage. I was like, so I am biased in favor of any character doing so, of course. It just hit right. It was incredible easy read for me to get through. Again, 5 stars, loved it. Number 58 was The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. I feel like I was a little harsh on this one. I said, but this was supposed to be a book club read with a friend that I didn't read it. Much like that friend, this guy turns into a bug and his life sucks and I just don't give a fuck. 2 stars. I realize it's meant to be more of an existentialist book. I'm aware of that, but at the baseline of when I read it, I apparently had an attitude about the whole situation. And yeah, that I'm taking the literal aspects of it, of him turning into a bug. There's a lot more deeper existential kind of meaning to it. I just don't care though, and I'll never reread it. Number 59 was Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. Second read by T. Kingfisher, and this one just sucked big time. It was a slow, uninteresting read, and the world sucked. 2 stars. 60, so 60% of the way, over halfway through, I started to gain some steam back a little bit. On My Knotted Up Life by Beth Moore is a quick, I think it was like a 5-hour audiobook. It was available now on Libby, kind of same sitch that I was talking about as I was just like hitting my 100 books. Always wanted to be ahead by at least like 5 or 6. I said I always loved taking chances on memoirs. I didn't like or dislike this one, so again, like most reading of this year, pretty middle of the road. Number 61 was Factfulness, 10 Reasons We Were Wrong About the World and Why Things Are Better Than You Think by Hans Rowling, and I think a few other people contributed to this. I said my sometimes very pessimistic brain absolutely needed this at the time that I read it, packed with statistics about how everything is genuinely only getting better, and it's in fact shit-ass social media and shitty news with shitty people that lie that makes the world feel super scary and awful. So this was just helpful to gain just different perspective and knowledge, and honestly, I would recommend it to a lot of people who may need like that type of shift in perspective that things really aren't that bad. They're actually continuing and have continued to get better. This was a 4.5 star. Up next is number 62, which is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I said it was dark and twisted, and I had fun trying to guess what was going on. 4 stars. I'm debating buying a physical copy of that just to reread and see if I have a different feeling. Number 63 is How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. This is my second Matt Haig, and I do want to read more. I just like the way that he writes, even though I can see sometimes like I view some of his stuff through rose-colored glass mindset to some of his stories, but I did give this a 4 star. So I'm interested to try out more and see if my perspective or thoughts change on him as an author, but we'll see. A lot of times I'm just in for an easy, simple, flowing read, and I seem to get that with his work. Or, so far anyway. We'll see if more happens. Number 65 was Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. I said a big fat nope and way too fucking long, 2 stars. I know I'm in the minority on that opinion again, and I don't care, I hated it. I don't even think I got through the whole thing. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I got pretty close, DNF towards the end, and I hated it. Number 66 was Entangled Life, How Fungi Makes Our Mind, or Make our world change our minds and shape our futures by Merlin Seldrake. I said, give me all the books where I can learn about nature, or where nature is the main focus of the book. I die, I dream, I love. 4 stars. Number 67 is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. I feel like this is such an old book, and my time considering my 2025 book challenge considering my 2025 book challenge wanted me to see what this was all about. So I'm not sure what I meant there, but 3 stars. Again, I'm mostly reading notes for these because I don't have all the recall in my brain. Number 68, The Rules Do Not Apply by Ariel Levy. I don't remember much here, but it was a memoir, so no rating. She just had the world and lost it all so quickly. Like, she had everything most people are working towards, and she lost it all, and I remember feeling shitty for her, but I don't remember liking it very much. Again, memoir, no rating. Number 69 was White Nights by, I fuck his first name up all the time. Dostoevsky. Here, can you hear her?
Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Jesus Christ. All right, moving on. I said people stewing over their unresolved almost loves. 3 stars. What a mess. I am. Number 70, 70% of the way through. We Are All the Same in the Dark by Julia Heberlin. I did the audiobook version. I was confused as hell, and thank God I could double speed because 11 hours was a big fat hell no for me, which double speed is awesome. I don't do it often, but sometimes I'm so thankful for it. Said I couldn't imagine reading this physically page by page. 2 stars. Number 71 was The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. I was excited for this at the prospect of different husbands kind of coming in and out of this like portal fantasy through the ceiling kind of vibes. Like they would change, but she'd stay the same. I said, but I hated this so much. It was really too long, and it was just a cool concept, but it was executed so poorly, in my opinion. 2 stars. Number 72. I feel like this is where some of my reading started to feel at least a little bit better. 72 is Keeper of Enchanted Rooms, which is part of the Wimbrel House series by Charlie N. Holmberg. I said I love Mara and Hulda and the magical haunted house in this one. It was just a nice, refreshing, and relaxing read, which my reading year needed desperately. 4 stars. I desperately needed this book. Number 73 was Braving the Wilderness, Quest for True Belonging by Brene Brown. I said I was going through some huge shifts with postpartum and figuring out my career and going back to work. This was settling and comfort, like it made me feel comfortable. 4 stars. 74 was The Myth of Normal, Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture by Gabor Mate. I said this was a long read. So much was interesting, so much I already knew since I'm not new to the trauma healing journey, and other parts of it didn't feel helpful at all to me. 3 stars. It was a beast. It was a thick, fat boy that felt like it took forever to get through, and I feel like same way in like Body Keeps the Score. What My Bones Know felt a little more narrative, but like in Body Keeps the Score, I would not recommend like trying to read this cram packet. Like, read some, take a break, read some, take a break, digest, read some. I think that's pretty accurate for a lot of like thicker self-help psychology related books. Number 76 was Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Just holy shit. Holy shit. I said this was an intense listen. It's a powerful book, but I did feel like it was way too long. Memoir. No rating. I'm not going to give a whole lot of detail on that one. Definitely look it up if you're interested. Number 77 was Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. Back to a big fat dud. This wasn't horror, so that pissed me off, because that's what I was like expecting. I've been trying to like dabble in more horror books, and this was none of that. I said it was about global warming. This was the wrong book with the wrong telling, in my opinion. 2 stars. Number 78 was Monster Etiquette by Dawn Moyer. Was talking about D&D and game stuff with a coworker at one of the places that I was working, starting in August. And she handed me this to read. It was cute, easy, 2 seconds, 4 stars. Number 79 is The Book of Belongings by Sue Monk Kidd. I almost bought this at a secondhand store, and I'm happy, really happy that I didn't. I said this was about Jesus having a wife. I don't remember anything else other than that, but I didn't like it. 2 stars. Number 81, which we're going from 79 to 81 because 80 was one of the Wayward Children series books. 81 was Furiously Happy by Jen Lawson, trying to be lighthearted and laugh about awful shit in life. I just don't work that way, so it didn't resonate with me. 2.5 stars. I really try to keep away from like half-star ratings because I feel like it is one thing or another, but 3 stars is my middle of the road. Didn't hate it, didn't like it. And obviously 2 stars is less than that. 4 stars is higher. Duh. But I'm like, it was a little less than what I expected, but it wasn't as awful as I typically rate like a 2 star, so 2.5. 82 is The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. I said my grandma gave me this one while visiting, and I will read anything her or my mom get me, period. I said it was just a nice, simple reminder. 4 stars. 83 is Life Ceremony by Sayaka Murata. Holy shit. Another holy shit for a totally different reason on this one. This is like, I would think like body horror or uncomfortableness based on bodies and I guess like what you can do with a body and body parts per like our today's standards. Look into it more if you're interested if you haven't read it. It was a wild read. It's 3 stars for me. 84 and 85 again were part of the Wayward Children series, which I already touched on. 86 is When Things Fall Apart, A Heart Advice for Difficult Times by Pema Chodron. Sorry. Again, it was a rather difficult year, figuring out certain things and a lot of second guessing myself. So this was peaceful, but it was also pretty meh. So my typical 3 stars. 87, again, was Shauna McGuire, Wayward Children series. Number 88, The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. The concepts of this book had me over the moon. Like, I was so excited to read this. It's kind of like the way that I've only really felt a pull towards like 2 or 3 books really this year, that I was like so amped for them. And I just like not really telling you anything about the book because I feel like that spoils it a bit, but I would 100% look inside my box, no questions about it. 4-star read. Number 89, All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. Any and every issue you can imagine being raised in a book, it was in here. Like, I am not joking. Any social issue, any just everything and anything, it was all here. I said there was no reflection on why any of this existed or was happening, and it just seemed to be like no pursuit of real growth. I know that's pretty vague, but that's just my feelings. I said it major missed the mark for me. 2 stars. 90% of the way there. We All Want Impossible Things by Catherine Newman. I said a lady is dying and she relies on her friend, and it just felt blah. Probably should have DNF'd. 2 stars. Womp womp. Number 91, The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. Again, it wasn't available now. I wasn't behind, but I was stressed about falling behind again. I was always worried about hitting this goal. Sometimes I just snagged stuff that was 7 hours or under for an audiobook. I don't remember a single thing about this book, but I gave it a 3-star. 92 was The Paper Palace by Miranda Kelly Heller. I said I have no recollection of having read this book, but I know I did. No review. I rated it 3 stars and couldn't explain why. So, funnily enough, I was going through talking to my book reading to my husband. I was like, I don't remember reading this book. And then I read the synopsis of it, and I was like, it's 2 friends that fuck out in the woods while their spouses are hanging out in a cabin together that they always visit. And it just was not something I'm into. I'm never going to enjoy reading about that because I obviously don't support that in my life. So why would I want to read a book about that? So anyway, 3-star, but based on that description alone, I'd say 2. 93, How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I hated this book. I actually just talked about it yesterday at a book club meetup that we read this book for. So I didn't like his writing, absolutely hate dolls, don't give a shit about the siblings. This was a book club read, 2 stars. I think I'm not interested in trying anything Grady Hendrix again. I'm really put off at the idea of it. Number 94 was Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Alternating chapters kind of ran 2 different choice timelines. Where if you made this one choice, this, if you made this choice, this kind of situation. I said, and it was so simple of a read. I just ate it up. Loved her writing style. 5 stars. Oh, this was a great book to break up all my 2s and 3s. Number 95 was The Reckless Oath We Made by Bryn Greenwood. There was nothing believable about these characters, and I just didn't care. Like a lot of things. 2 stars. Number 96 was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alicia Feeney. Again, tiptoeing my way into more horror-type books. I waited months having reserved this as an audiobook. Wasn't worth it at all. 2 stars. 97 was The 12-Week Year by Brian Moran. Potentially a life-changing type book for people. I totally believe that. I appreciate breaking down goals into 12 weeks versus 12 months. So while reading this book, it kind of got me in the concept of wanting to consider trying it, but I haven't done so. 4-star rating. Number 98, The Ministry of Time by Kalaine Bradley. Another one I waited months to be available, and again, not even sort of worth the wait at all. Awful read, hated it, 2 stars. Not my vibe, in the minority, I don't care. I'm pretty sure it won a Goodreads Choice Award for this year, 2024. Hated the book. Number 99, The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. I'm sure I've said this multiple times, but I'm not typically much of a romance type girl. I don't like seek out a book that's about romance typically. This was another one of those ones that was available now, and I've heard hype about it, and I'm like, it seems like a pretty quick, easy read. Let's just go for it. Um, this is like an intro to even some kind of smut in a book, and I don't know how I feel about that. So I rated it 3-star, and we're moving on. I don't think I'll be pursuing any of the others. Number 100, yeah, which means this I officially marked and completed my challenge. And I read The Graveyard Shift by Emma Rio. I said I really wanted a short novella to just cap off my challenge and be able to take a breath and refocus more on my physical books I actually wanted to read. This was short, not horror, not really a lot of substance to it. I was interested for a small portion. I absolutely love the cover. I could leave it here and there, whatever, kind of, but I'm just happy it was a simple short novella. 3 stars. I read it in like a couple hours at work. Now, moving on to my post 100, where I feel like I took a frickin' breath and was like, let's slow down. I've met my challenge. Let's go slow. So book 101 was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one specifically, I had been up and down about wanting to read, but because I loved her writing style in the other one I read this year, I said, let's go for it. I said second read of the year, and again, her writing was just so easy to plow through. I was also going through a big naming my own shame and letting it go during the time of reading this book, and this book was just like a pleasant tag along in that journey for me personally. I also didn't call the ending at all. 5 stars. I think it was a phenomenal book. Number 102 was Air of Uncertain Magic by Charlie N. Holmberg. And this is number 2 in the Wimbrel, I don't know why that's so hard for me to say, Wimbrel House book series. I have the 3rd one actually coming in the mail as well. Should get here next week. I'm excited to keep going with that one. I said it left me wanting more, and I'm absolutely enjoying the rather simple and more YA style twists and turns to this. 4 stars. Number 103, plus I just like love the little magical vibes of it. It's obviously very unrealistic, but it's fantasy, and I like it. Number 103, The People We Keep by Alison Lark. I really, really wished this were nonfiction. I got bored with the stories. It just wasn't satisfying. Imagine these situations happening to real people. Womp, 2 stars. I kind of know that's not the idea, but as most of us do when we read, we imagine ourselves or people we know or can imagine characters in these situations and living these things, and just like was iffy about that one. Number 104, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. Gonna read my notes for this one. I said, oh Jesus. I never watched Friends. I didn't care about Chandler or Matthew Perry at all. I was a little sad in the beginning because he starts it off by saying, imagine you're hearing it like as if he's dead from the other side. And I said, well, he's obviously dead now. So that felt sad. But holy shit, he's an addicted asshole, or was an addicted asshole. He dwindled down every interaction with a woman to be worth nothing more than if they'd fuck him. The pretentious making $1 million a week comment wasn't enough to say no to drugs and alcohol. Get fucking bent, Matthew Perry, is how I felt about it. He didn't want to get better. He didn't want help. And the insane me in this was fucking awful. 1 really shitty fucking star. I hated that book. Ugh. Worst probably read of the year. I shouldn't rate it. It's memoir, but I don't care. It was awful. Would never recommend. I'm not a Friends person. I don't give a shit about Chandler, like I said, so I real clearly was not the target audience for that. Book 105, Tell Me Everything by Elizabeth Strout. Just covered this in my book club yesterday as well. I said I gotta be honest. I know this book is number 5 in a semi-connected series through the characters specifically. I said, but I've read about Olive Kittredge before by Elizabeth Strout, and I just did not like that book. So I had to kind of like pretend that they aren't related. So I didn't have those vibes going into it, hopefully. And I tried to like see this as a standalone. I highlighted so much. It's a book club pick I made. So many boring things, but it was simple and soft. So many things that speak to my constant state of existentialism. It was nice. So in like my book club kind of wrap up about it yesterday, there was a lot of one-liners that she said that were like, chef's kiss, that's a perfect explanation for this feeling. She talked about people being sin eaters, and both me and my book club friend Katie were like, that's genius. So there were a lot of one lines that were the parts that I highlighted that I loved, but Katie put it in like a great saying of like, it felt like you were at a barbershop or like a beauty hair salon where you're just like one person's listening to all these stories that have nothing to do with each other, and most of them you don't care about, but the idea I know is like every story from everyone deserves to be documented, so like I appreciate that aspect of it, but I gave it a 4-star. And then I lied, I have 107 books. But 106 finished. So my 106th book was It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin. I was recommended this book as a step to read after The Body Keeps the Score. And as a broken record, healing from trauma, this was an awful idea to ruminate on. Like, I'm going to say it was an awful idea to ruminate on because I wrote that so much in you can come from all the traumas from multiple generations before you, and that just sucks to know. It sucks to know that if you trace it back or you have knowledge of like traumas family suffered, that they can and do pass it on to you, and thus you to your children. And I was talking about this again in my book club yesterday because Katie's actually the one that recommended this to me post Body Keeps the Score, because we talked about that last time we met in October. So she recommended me this. I read this and it was just a trip. I think I was telling her yesterday, I was like, this really highlighted what it means to truly break the cycle of something. Like, I think that a lot of us have what we believe that concept to be, but this book perfectly described what that actually means, and not how you go about it or anything, but how you become aware of it and just how far trauma can go back, even if it's something you personally haven't experienced, which is fucking awful. Like, I had a hard time. I do still have a hard time adjusting to that because I just finished this a couple of days ago. I said it started to get really boring to me, though, at the end. I think I was just overwhelmed, and I did kind of read this pretty all in one pass while only having one other book going on at the time. So I kind of did what I don't advise for these type of books and kind of just plowed through the thing. It was heavy. It was hard. I'm still thinking about things and still processing them, so that's my feelings now on it anyway. And I wrote number 107, which is my current and last read that I will be reading this year, is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawagui. Sorry, I absolutely butchered that. I said I'm only the third way through it, and it's a cute concept, but I just kind of like don't like the language of it, and I don't like the idea of it, and it's starting to feel repetitive, and there's just, so I say it's cute, but we'll see. I'm feeling pretty lower star on it. But that's where I'm at for the year. So my first read of 2025 will actually be Looking Glass Down for a new book club sitch that I've kind of got going. So we'll see if that actually happens. That's a horror book. She a pretty big fatty, and I just bought her the other day. So I'm planning to annotate the crap out of that in hopes and preps for this book club to happen. And then my 2025 reading challenge is going from 100 plus books, which I'm obviously going to read plenty of books in the year, but my one main, I want to take it seriously book for my one book challenge is reading the Bible. I've touched on it in the previous video before this. I'm touching on it here, and I'll touch on it again in the new year. And we'll get back to gaming content and a creative art content, other book content, just anything I feel like making in those kinds of veins. But yeah, that's my full 107 I guess, because I will finish it before the end of the year. Today's the 30th, and I'll probably finish it tonight. I only have a little bit more to go because I did end up reading more, but I wrote this whole list 2 days ago. So I'm almost there, and yeah, I'm not really liking the book, but I had the whole little series, so we're going to try to get through that, and I'll probably stamp it and move it on to someone else. But yeah, that's my whole 106 plus book read review. It was all over the place. I didn't explain half the things. If you're interested, go look at any of the books. But yeah, I will see you lovely, beautiful babes in 2025. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next year, in the next video, and have a happy new year. Bye!